Okay, greetings everyone. Lecture 7, the last one of any major content. Beg your pardon. We'll be talking about trends and Generation Y uh, employees, which is perfect. You guys are Generation Y employees. You guys are millennials, and I am a baby boomer. So this will be an interesting topic for discussion this week. I'm curious to know if there's a similar generation gap in India. I know the baby boom was a post World War II phenomenon in the U.S., um, but I'm curious if there's a similar. I couldn't find anything online about it necessarily, though I know there are always gaps between generations, including between me and the folks that were older, like my mother's 86. So anyway, we'll press on with this week's content. Um, just two chapters this week, one from Bourgeois and one from Langer. That's a nice light load compared to last week. You guys had a lot of work to turn in last week. Really eager to grade those portfolio projects and hopefully hand out some great grades and make sure you get that A that everybody's looking for. Okay, so the trends. Bourgeois listed quite a few trends, and then particularly we wrap that into how it affects culture and society, and depending on what technology you're talking about, it's a huge impact on the way we live our lives, society, and culture. So we'll move on with that. This is, not particularly um, enlightening. There's a lot of a lot of folks on the internet. It gets to be more and more ubiquitous. Someday it will be ubiquitous, I believe, either using satellites or drones or weather balloons. The internet will be you, as available as air at some point. Um, Absolutely, the explosion in mobile devices. I'm not sure if you remember 13 years ago when the iPhone came out, you might, uh, um, it just changed everything. The touch screen, the interface, the integration of storing photos in the cloud, the network, the 4G came together all at the same time and just revolutionized the way we do computing, the way we do socializing, the way we do fitness, work, everything. Um, so Bourgeois goes into some trends as far as how that tended to change things. Even for Google, most web searches are mobile, so you've got to have your mobile game on if you're a solutions developer, if you're in government, if you're if you're providing services, hotels, restaurants, anything like that. You gotta have mobile. And then wearable devices. I don't know if these are a, a fad or if they really are moving ahead. I think I see more mobile watches. The data would tell you that they are increasing. I just don't know that. I think people buy them and don't wear them. I know a lot of people that have a Fitbit and don't wear it. They bought it because they thought it sounded like a good idea, but it just really didn't pan out. But then you do see a lot of them. So yeah, and wearables are growing just in the concept of the personal area network. So yeah, Bourgeois discusses some of those trends. That was interesting. Um, and then yeah, the crowdsourcing and collaborating as a society to take polls uh, and with reviews and things like a speed trap. You just touch a button on your phone and the policeman that thought he was going to write some tickets all of a sudden gets lit up on everybody's phone, and everybody slows down. So that's interesting. And these 3D printers, I'm lucky enough to be around those some, and I'm amazed, and not just at 3D printers, because those build up something from nothing using basically a plastic filament, um, but also CNC machines, and laser engravers, all of these computer controlled small scale manufacturing and prototyping devices are getting to be huge, particularly for prototyping. But I think at one point in time we'll all have a printer in our house, and if we need something, um, it, we'll be able to print out uh, a lot of useful things, kitchen implements, whatever. You know what I mean? Why have supper ruined because you don't have a spatula if you can just print one out in an hour, or 2 seconds. Yeah, that's the other thing. The other trend is they're getting faster and faster. Everything gets cheaper, better, faster. That's the trend. Okay. So the Internet of Things, um, that's getting to be an entire area of expertise, is integrating the data from all of these different devices, sensors and cameras, particularly, and integrating them all within a person's life. I mean, think about all the digital data and stuff you have floating around, pictures on your phone, on your computer. You've got assignments that you've stored in the cloud. You may have more than one cloud account, more than one Gmail account. You've got stuff that's out on Facebook that you didn't save, that your friend posted that you wish you had. I mean, there's just so much out there. And then to this second bullet, autonomous technology. To me, that will be as much of a game changer as electricity or the aeroplane or the internet. Autonomous, especially particularly autonomous vehicles and general purpose autonomous robots. I'm not even talking about Skynet and sentient artificial intelligence. Just a relatively smart robot that could obey simple commands like sweep the sidewalk, or you know pick the oranges off of that tree. Even if it was that simple, it's going to absolutely revolutionize work and the notion of a salary for low and semi-skilled workers. Um, yeah, to me, autonomous, and just look at the number of truck drivers there are around the world, people that make their living steering something, and stepping on the gas. Those jobs are gone in 20 years. So, millions upon millions of people are going to have to learn how to do something else, or we're going to have to figure out something like universal basic income or something. Um, I wish we would get ahead of it and engineer the change instead of just letting it happen randomly, but we'll see how it goes. It'll be your generation, Generation Y, that takes on that challenge. Uh, Enjoying my morning coffee. Okay, so that was bourgeois trends, and that's what you'll discuss. I just the discussion question this week's just what's the next big thing? Let's just talk about cool stuff that's changing in technology. Now, this chapter for Langer is interesting. Make sure you give it a read. It's interesting because it's talking about you, but it's coming from someone that's in my generation. So interesting what the what you guys think of that, and I'm interested. I'll be interested to read your assignments when you turn them in. Yeah, you guys grew up. Didn't really don't really remember not having access to a computer from a generation standpoint. You personally may not have had a computer when you were younger, But your generation certainly had huge access to computers. You guys were all born basically what in the 80s? Yeah. If you're 30, you were born in 90. So you guys might have been born in the 80s and 90s. Computers were everywhere. The internet was on in most households in America by 2000, 20 years ago. Um, so anyway, yeah, and much less resistance to change, much more apt to speak your mind online. There's definite differences between baby boomers, even Gen Xers, and Gen Y. I was born in the last year of the baby boom. I was born in '64. So I'm right there on the cusp of a baby boomer versus a Gen Xer. But yeah, so you guys will just be commenting a little bit about what you thought about your Langer reading. Um, so these are absolutely, you know, factors that Langer wants to point out that are fairly obvious. You know, the people execute a strategy. Um, you know, if the company is going to be digital, everybody's got to be on board, and everybody has to embrace the tools, and that takes a lot of training. It takes a lot of putting the right tools in and the right process and digitizing processes, not just throwing tools out there without a plan. Um, and you know, this third bullet, a company has to address the scarcity of resources. We know all about that. We just are not the birth rate in the U.S. and Western Europe is just tanked. So we absolutely are going to have to uh, deal with getting younger folks trained and on board more efficiently. But then again, they say we're about to experience a silver tsunami, referring to the color of our hair and the workforce, because there aren't enough people. So folks like my age and older are going to have to um, stay in the workforce, and then yeah, resistance to change. I think that's the biggest thing is that younger folks are seem to be far more adaptable than older folks, and I think the data bears that out. Um, I think people, me, you, people tend to resist change, and they just want to have their routine the older they get. That's my observation. I would imagine there are numerous studies that discuss the adaptability of the human being as we age. Um, so yeah, and he goes into some the ways you guys work are different than us. Um, it's a to me what I'm noticing is there's a respect or a fear among my generation for showing up on time. I notice a lot of younger folks are just not all that worried about exactly when work starts, like punching a clock. Um, I know uh, the millennials like to have their peer group in touch all the time. You guys look at your phone all the time, and it's normally social media doing that, which you just got to find a balance of when it's okay to do that and when you got to put that away. And I find most folks do it. Most folks make um, um, a good decision to have some balance. Um, Now, I'm not sure I understand about this um, not supportive of a place where you don't have a permanent office or workspace. I find younger folks working from everywhere. Curious what you guys will think about that and how you'll work that um, into your assignment response, and definitely less materialism. I'm seeing way more attention being paid to the the uh, the ecology, um, global warming, sustainable. I'm seeing a lot more, organic foods, and trying to get away from chemicals and pesticides and hormones and all of that. Um, and less formal structure. I think there's another slide on that. Definitely a workplace um, that everyone knows their role formally, but definitely informal, collaborative, fun work environment. If you're going to be there all day, you might as well be having fun. It might as well be like you're hanging out with your friends, having fun. Um, yeah, just some overall attributes of your generation. Um, like I said, much more likely to. I think people in my generation wanted to join a company and get a good job, and people your age are seeing much more opportunity out there, whether it's starting your own business in consulting or software development or music production or video production or your own drone company or whatever it is. I see a lot more entrepreneurialism in this younger generation than I think we had, and that ability, that willingness to transform and adapt to change quickly is the energy level, the spark that Langer knows is a requirement. Um, so here's the deal, guys. The baby boom. If you look at the bubble, it's retiring. We're all getting old. I'm the youngest baby boomer, and I'm 56. I just turned 56 last week. So we're moving into semi-retirement and retirement. So there's a lot more going on here. They mentioned some things like telecommuting and promotions and mentoring, and those are all things. I'm curious, as you go through this list, what you will decide is important for yourself. And again, I'll be interested to see what you write up in your assignment. Um, so yeah, Generation Y, you guys seem to be more flexible and have more depth of analysis in your political views. Lots more um, civic engagement, social activity, particularly online. A lot less. Uh, a lot less likely to be materialistic. I think we boomed in materialism in the 80s and 90s somewhat, which is that more concerned with the quality of life than material gain. So yeah, there's differences there. I'm curious what you guys will see. Um, and if you have any comments about um, um, the perceptions, are these perceptions accurate or not? About what perceptions you have of your parents' generation and what perception I have. My children are 26, 30, and 32. So I'm a parent of the Gen Y, and so I've got a front row seat. So curious what you guys will come up with. Interesting stuff this week. Not terribly technical and not anywhere near as much work as last week. So looking forward to seeing your stuff. Um, yeah, gotta gotta get a handle on this. It seems like we in the U.S. we shipped a lot of our what had been good middle class paying jobs, normally union wage manufacturing jobs, shipped them overseas, and now we're dealing with this new economy where a lot more reliant on small business. So to get companies staffed, yeah, they're going to have to either figure out how to train Generation Y. And I don't think college is necessarily the only way to do it. There's an awful lot of information out there available. Um, Good food for thought. It's just putting it into some sort of a program is what it takes. Yeah, traditional degree programs. Um, and this is trouble. You can't exclude. You guys are the leaders of tomorrow. Societies can't survive and thrive um, by not passing on at least as good as opportunities as they had themselves. And that seems to be what's happening. Seems to be a little tougher to get going with your career nowadays than it used to be. But I don't know. There's definitely some cultural differences. Um, I think uh, my generation handed things to their kids a little more than the previous. You always want to you don't like to see your kids struggle, but maybe that's not serving them well. We'll see. See what you guys think. Okay, so here we got a quick discussion. Just what's the next big thing? What is the next big thing? I think the last big thing might have been like the iPhone and iPad and iPod. The touchscreen digitalization of everything, and that you can walk around. You know what I mean? Mobile technology, um, Android, iPhone, all that. I think that might have been the last next big thing. So just give me your opinions on this. It'll be an interesting discussion. And then you've got one chapter of Bourgeois and one chapter of Langer. It's right in the syllabus there. So just reflect on the generation gap and what it's like. You guys, are fulfilling a gap in this country, a talent gap. So you can absolutely turn in what could be done. Do we need to open um, more tech visas? Do we need to make it easier to work from elsewhere? Do we need better collaborative technologies um, for distributed working? What are some methods to assimilate new generations? Should we have a thing where we have young people in the workplace earlier? Like used to be, kids would hang out at their parents' store, or whatever, or the bakery, and learn when they were side by side. It was just part of the family business. And now we have this big separation, and you just sort of get dumped into the workforce. I think it could be done differently. But anyway, there's your assignments for this week. Uh, Everybody have a good week. This is our last week of content. Next week's lecture is just going to be a course wrap up, kind of tying it all together, how Langer and Bourgeois and these different topics and techniques promote operational excellence out there in the enterprise. All righty. You guys have a good week.